Tonya, 15. Verdict: get your skates on and see it rating, just in case your appetite for ice-rink drama hasn't been satisfied by coverage of the Winter Olympics in South Korea. Here comes Tonya, landing in cinemas with the timing of a perfectly executed triple axel. The first American woman to perform that fiendishly difficult move was Tonya Harding, Margot Robbie. The subject of Craig Gillespie's compelling, pitch-black comedy. It was totally the most awesomest thing, she tells us. Looking back at the most seismic moment of a career cut abruptly short at 23. But it is not Harding's ability on the ice that most concerns Gillespie and writer Stephen Rogers, so much as her troubled existence off it, which led to a lifetime ban by the U.S. Figure Skating Association. The ban followed the notorious truncheon attack on Harding's compatriot and rival Nancy Kerrigan, Caitlin Carver, during the U.S. National Championships in Detroit in January 1994, a manifest attempt to stop Kerrigan competing in the forthcoming Winter Olympics in Norway. Did Harding know beforehand of the assault, which was allegedly planned by her ex-husband Jeff Gillily, Sebastian Stan? That question has never been satisfactorily answered. The ban was for hindering the prosecution, not for conspiring to nobble a rival. Whatever, the film unequivocally absolves her. Contentiously, it presents Harding as an even more hapless victim than Kerrigan, whose own trauma as she lay holding her battered knee and wailing why? A distressing spectacle that is readily available on YouTube, is all but ignored. Harding's victimhood began, at least as Tonya sees it, at birth. The film cleverly weaves the drama between documentary-style interviews given to camera by the major players in her story long after the events of 1994. Some of these are based on actual transcripts, and while Harding herself, quite brilliantly played by Robbie, is the main witness, the most riveting is her monstrous mother, Lavona Golden, Alison Janney. The pushy parent, driven by a warped notion of tough love, is a familiar figure in sporting tales. But Lavona is something different. Tough love doesn't just need toughness, it also needs love, and there's scant evidence of that. Perhaps the key line comes early on. Tonya, she tells us, was her fifth child from husband number 4. Evidently, she didn't keep having kids to satisfy a maternal instinct, she just couldn't be bothered to stop. Moreover, the whiff of the trailer park always accompanied Harding onto the ice. The film makes a great deal of the snobbery of the figure skating establishment, who preferred genteel ballerina types, and were affronted by this working-class athlete more caked in blusher than a street corner prostitute. Janney, who won the BAFTA for Best Supporting Actress last Sunday, and will probably add an Oscar next month, has suggested that Tonya encourages a response a little like laughing in church, when you're aware you shouldn't. I know what she means. We see Tonya suffering wince-inducing physical and psychological abuse not just at the hands of her ghastly mother, but also, later, from Gillily. Sometimes she gives back as good as she gets. It's terrible to watch a young woman becoming so conditioned to expect abusive behavior from those closest to her. Yet this film is also very funny. Somehow, it even extracts laughs from the domestic violence. In one shocking scene, Lavona throws a knife at Tonya, which sticks in her arm. Even Lavona, it briefly seems, is horrified by what she has done. But she is a stranger to remorse. "Oh please," she says, after a beat. "Show me a family that doesn't have ups and downs." Bizarrely, Lavona talks to camera with an oxygen tube up her nose and a parakeet on her shoulder. Even more distractingly for a British audience. She looks unnervingly like Coronation Street's Deirdre Barlow of blessed memory, wearing an expression as if she's just caught Ken in bed with a pair of barmaids. That quirk aside, this is a uniquely American story, puncturing the myth that there is no class system over there in the land of the free. And aside from the excellence of Janny and Robbie, who is also deservedly nominated for an Academy Award, there is great support. Especially from a scene-stealing Paul Walter Hauser as Galilee's lumpen friend Sean Eckhart, Harding's hilariously deluded bodyguard, who activated the 1994 attack. The Ice King, 12A, verdict, fine John Currie documentary rating, also in 1994. Another very different figure skating tale came to a tragic end, with the death from an AIDS-related illness of former Olympic champion John Currie. He was only 44. James Erskine's fine documentary, The Ice King, offers the timely suggestion that Britain hasn't given Currie the great credit he deserves for his remarkable achievements on ice, and for being the first man to marry the athleticism of skating with the artistry of dance. Maybe it's safer, even now, for us to champion Torvill and Dean rather than our first figure skating gold medalist. Currie made no secret of his homosexuality, which gained him plenty of adverse publicity, and was outspoken in the 70s about the rampant corruption in skating. There is a fascinating clip in this film in which he admits to his trepidation, before every competition. As he waits for the judges to be announced, "I just sit there counting East-West," he says, knowing he will never get support from Eastern Bloc judges. Nevertheless, he won individual gold at the 1976 Olympics in Innsbruck, the highlight of a life that was scarred by a great deal of pain. Like Tonya Harding, Currie had a tormented childhood. His father, who ran a successful engineering firm in Birmingham, flatly refused to let him take ballet lessons and loathed his obvious campness, but would countenance ice skating because it was protected by the umbrella of sport. They clearly didn't have much time for one another. Yet Currie was traumatized when his father committed suicide. It's a sad story, but it's uplifting, all the same, to be reminded of such dazzling talent. Finding Your Feet, 12A, verdict, a backwards step rating. The cast list for this somewhat forced bittersweet comedy actually reads more like a guest list for a party for stalwart, much admired British acting talent of a certain age: Imelda Staunton, Celia Imrie, Timothy Spall, Joanna Lumley, John Sessions and Josie Lawrence all feature, making it a small mystery that there's no sign anywhere of Bill Nye. I looked hard, but he's definitely not there. The story lurches with clunky predictability from deepest Surrey, where uptight Sandra Staunton wallows in great affluence but no discernible happiness, to liberal North London, where her semi-estranged sister Biff, Imrie, exists very contentedly in an untidy council flat, spending every Thursday at a dance class for those nudging pensionable age. A little color in her hair, and a predilection for open-air swimming, confirms that Biff is a fully paid-up bohemian. When Sandra discovers that her pompous husband, Sessions, is having an affair, she decamps to Biff's place, and soon alienates Biff's friends with her high-handed snootiness. she is especially snotty towards pot-smoking Charlie Spall, overdoing the decent old Kovac, who lives on a narrow boat and drives a decrepit van, although only, you understand, to free up the capital to keep his dementia-stricken wife in a handsome care home. It's hardly a spoiler, since it couldn't be more signposted, to reveal that the road from leafy Surrey to a North London council estate is actually a journey of self-discovery for Sandra, in which she re-engages with Biff, is reminded how much she loves dancing, and finds the right values in the nick of time. Director Richard Loncran, and writers Meg Leonard and Nick Moorcroft, resist no cliché or caricature in what is essentially a mélange, perhaps even a potpourri, of themes from other, better British films such as Shirley Valentine and The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. Infidelity, mortality, senility, bereavement, terminal cancer, the waltz, the jive, the two-step, they're all crowbarred in as if in deference to a checklist of issues, fears and lifestyle options confronting the over-60s. It's a kind of cinematic version of painting by numbers, and rather a waste of talent, and yet for all that, I amazed myself by quite enjoying it. If you're of that certain age, I dare say you might, too. Dark River, 15, verdict, grim and brooding rating, Cleo Barnard's last film as writer-director, 2013's The Selfish Giant, was a small masterpiece, its terrible bleakness leavened by wit and humanity. Dark River, set like The Selfish Giant in Yorkshire, is just terribly bleak. Ruth Wilson plays Alice, pictured below, who after 15 years away as a contract sheep shearer, returns to the ramshackle tenant farm where she grew up. Her father has died, leaving only her brother Joe, Mark Stanley. Any pleasure he might derive from seeing her again is registered in that Yorkshire farmer's way, by an almost imperceptible upturning at the sides of his mouth. But then they have nothing much to smile about. Joe has let the farm collapse around him, and is too set in his ways to see how it might be made more profitable. And Alice, as a child, was sexually abused by their father, seen in flashback and played by Sean Bean. Joe did not protect her. Now she wants what she thinks is morally hers, the sole tenancy of the farm. The quarrel over which of them should have the tenancy drives a further wedge between the siblings, which is only resolved in the most tragic of circumstances. All this is beautifully acted. Wilson seems as perfectly cast as she was as a highly sexed American waitress in the raunchy TV drama The Affair, which says plenty about her ability, and Stanley is excellent, too. But the dialogue could probably be contained on 2 sides of A4. Barnard prefers her characters to internalize their feelings, not articulate them, which becomes frustrating for the audience long before the end. Or rather, T-end.